All right, everybody. Sorry. I got caught talking to our guest and I wasn't catching the time. So, hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Pints with Paul, where you get to sit down and kind of chat with me and get to know everything that's going on here in South Florida in kind of a fun, relaxed way. I've got my pint, I got my beer right here. I know you can't see it, so I got the background kind of blurred, but and I'm having a fish whistle by Selfish Brewing up in Fort Pierce. Yeah, they're up in Fort Pierce. Stopped off there last weekend. Nice pale ale. So anyway, hope you have something nice and tasty to drink. Those of you up in the Great White North, I hope you're staying nice and warm and everything. And so we have a special guest today. So as I said, a lot of times I am going to try to bring some guests onto the show so we can talk and help you guys out. Sometimes it's going to be me talking, then other times I'm going to have mortgage people. But this is a special guest that I met through my office, and I'm excited to have this gentleman come on board because, you know, buying real estate in South Florida is a little different than buying in other states. Now, those of you who are up in the Northeast, you know, a lot of your transactions have a lawyer involved from the beginning all the way through the end. Down here in South Florida, not so much. We have what's called as-is contract. It's kind of already approved by the lawyers in the Florida Real Estate Board, and that's a contract that we use. Not that you can't hire a lawyer, but I've done many transactions where there just wasn't a lawyer involved other than, you know, going through the title company, and everything just, you know, went nice and smooth. But sometimes you do have transactions that are bumpy and they're not so smooth. And in that case, you would want to have a lawyer to help you out. So our guest today is a lawyer and also title, and he's also an investor here in South Florida. And he's been doing business for quite a while here in the Palm Beach County area. And I want to, it's the company I'll bring it on here is Kelley & Grant, PA. And well, let's just get to it. I'm going to bring on Jerron. So let me bring him into the studio. And Jerron?
Hey, Paul.
Hey, how you doing? Good to see you.
Great.
Good to see you.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
No.
And I apologize. I didn't bring my pint to work today. If I was doing this from my home office, I'd be sharing a pint with you. So
that's right. You're being the attorney. You look sharp, and you're at work still, and I'm at home. And yeah, so what you can have. Well, you can celebrate one when you get home or later on, right?
There we go. Exactly.
You know, what I wanted to kind of talk about today, and I was telling people, is that in Florida, you know, we have the as-is contract, and it's a pretty simple contract. It's already been approved by lawyers and the real estate commission. And so a lot of times with a really basic transaction, there's really never any lawyer involved. You know, we put the offer on, everything goes well. We put an escrow in with the title company, even though they have a lawyer. And for the most part, it can be pretty smooth versus up north, where there are a lot of places up there in New Jersey and New York, they have a lawyer involved from every step of the way. So what I wanted to kind of talk about today, and a few things, is maybe just give people an idea of, you know, how can you stay out of trouble with things like your escrow, and you know, make sure, you know, what if you don't close on time or certain things like that, and just a couple things that you might want to talk about. And we're gonna talk about some other stuff as we go. You know, Jerron, we said we're just going to kind of go back and forth a little bit about stuff. So, but I know that some of the things that people are always curious about. And but before we do that, why don't you give us a little background about your firm, yourself, where you're from, how much do you enjoy living here in South Florida?
Well, good. Well, yeah, thanks, Paul. So I'll start off with my background. I love living here in Florida. I was born and raised in West Palm Beach, and lived my whole life here in South Florida. As I can see in the background, well, this way, went to the University of Miami. There we go, right up there.
There you go.
It's all about the U, baby.
Okay.
Lived my whole life in South Florida. I realized when I was fairly young, looking around at different colleges and traveling a little bit, that South Florida is just an amazing place to be. Whenever I would travel somewhere else, I would have a wonderful time. Go to Colorado to go skiing, or go to California is beautiful, travel the PCH highway, or, you know, go to Montana is amazing, and North Carolina in the mountains. And, you know, we have so many amazing things here in America and so many great places, but I realized that South Florida is a special place to be. And for those of you who maybe have not visited, you really should take the time to visit. We're seeing a flood of folks moving here from other states for a variety of reasons. And we'll talk about that a little later. But just to give you a little background about who I am, I am Jerron Kelley. Our law firm is Kelley and Grant, PA. I'm one of the partners here. We are sort of kind of a medium-sized law firm, small to medium. We've got 5 attorneys and we've got about 21 paralegals now. We are a full-service real estate law firm. We have 5 practice areas underneath that kind of real estate umbrella. First of all, we have a landlord tenant law. We file about 250 to 300 evictions per month throughout the entire state of Florida. We handle a wide variety of landlord tenant matters, almost exclusively for landlords, big and small. So we work with a lot of investors and a lot of folks that own apartments and single family homes, and they rent them out. Nice. The next area is wills, trusts, and probate and estate law. So we handle any type of wills, trusts, estate issues here in Florida. We also have an association law department, so we represent associations. We also have a litigation department. So any type of litigation, corporate, corporate or real estate disputes, contractual disputes, escrow deposit disputes. Sometimes these deals fall apart. Contracts, it's pretty rare that we're not able to salvage a deal, and we'll talk about that more, Paul, shortly. But that's what one of the reasons we're here for, is to keep you out of trouble. But if you do get into trouble, we're here to represent you and make sure that you've got effective representation, and that if you're a buyer, your escrow deposit hopefully is not at risk, and or if you're a seller, that if a buyer breaches a contract and they're at fault, that you can go after that escrow deposit. And then the last area of practice is one that I spend most of my time in, is I manage our title and closing department here. We close anywhere from about 70 to 100 transactions per month, residential and commercial, big and small, from small $150,000 condos and townhomes to we just did a $110 million commercial deal, $62 million commercial deal in the last 60 days. So we do deals of all sizes. So yes, and one other thing I'd like to just kind of piggyback off on what you said there, Paul. In Florida, as you indicated, to close on a transaction, there's 2 options. One is a title company, and the other option is a law firm. True. And some people will ask, well, what's the difference between me closing with a title company or a law firm? The main difference is that with a law firm, you are going to have, number one, the ability to have representation throughout the transaction. If you have legal questions and you're referring the deal on to us, we're there to make sure that we're guiding you through the process, and we're able to answer those questions, those legal questions, as an attorney. A lot of title companies are not attorney owned. Some aren't, but a lot aren't. And we're also able to do all that legal work that might be ancillary to the transaction. It could be drafting up an operating agreement if you're trying to incorporate an LLC, which we can do. It could be drafting up addendums and negotiating those addendums, which are changes to the contract. So those are some differences between the two. And generally, if people ask, well, you're a law firm, do you charge more for a real estate closing? The answer is no. We have very reasonable fees, $495 we charge as a settlement fee to a seller, and a cash buyer, the same thing, $495. If it's a buyer with financing, our settlement fee is $750. And if you shop that around, it's very reasonable, and it's probably less than a lot of title companies out there. So,
nice. Yeah, I probably in my business, most of the time, not all the time, but almost 99% of the time, it's been with a title company. But they're having people who've been through and used an attorney to that way. But a lot of times it would be one of the title companies and stuff. But you're very, very right. So thank you very much for clarifying that. So
sure.
So
absolutely.
Which is obviously a great reason to meet you, because you could help my clients out.
That's it. That's it. Happy to do that, Paul.
Yeah. So well, great. Well, it's being that I'm a proud dad of a Gator graduate. I got to say it's all go Gators. But
I respect that. Yeah.
My son won't be happy I didn't say that, but love you, buddy. Well, that's great. Well, real estate, like I said, for the most part, most transactions do seem to go pretty smooth. But as you said, occasionally there are bumps in the roads. People, a lot of times it's emotion, oh, well, I'm upset, you're not going to close, or, whatever. And I know a lot of times, I know with me working with a lot of buyers, I'm really on top of those on our as is contract inspection period, your right to inspect. And I tell them, hey, look, we have these days and you can cancel, like whatever. I mean, you don't have to really any real major reason. You don't like this house for whatever, you do have that, but you have to do it in that time and it has to be done. And fortunately, knock on wood, I've not had any issues with that. And I've always made sure that if there's anything, they've told me, and we sent the cancellation release and everything was good, and they've gotten their money back. Great. But I've heard other stories from other agents, and they did everything by the way they were supposed to, and the seller was upset, and they didn't want to release the money, or said, well, we don't want to give it back. And I know it's not, for those of you watching, and you correct me being that you're the lawyer, but it's not that simple. They can't just say, well, I'm keeping your money. I mean, it actually can tie everything up. For one, the seller can't continue to put their house on the market, what I've been told, right? If it gets tied up into like a legal dispute, they're kind of like,
it's possible depending on how that transpires.
Right.
So just to kind of, talk about, piggyback off of what you're saying again. Yes. So first of all, you want to make sure that you have a realtor that's on your side and that's experienced and knows what they're doing, such as yourself, Paul. I've worked with a lot of inexperienced realtors that will send us deals that are on deals, or maybe they didn't send it, maybe they're on the other side, like a listing agent sends it to us, and then the buyer's agent is on there and they're inexperienced and they don't keep track of these dates, inspection period dates, and they're not truly representing their clients well. I know with your clients that you do that, you've got a great reputation, you're on top of your contracts and all your contingency dates, and you're letting your clients know, hey, okay, the inspection period is going to be up, let's say tomorrow, Friday. Are you wanting to move forward with the transaction? If you are moving forward with the transaction, that's great. We'll proceed. And once tomorrow turns into Saturday, then you are essentially hard on your money unless there's a financing contingency, which we'll talk about in a second here. But during that inspection period, you have the right to cancel for any reason as the buyer, as you indicated. Yeah. And if you do want to cancel, you need to make sure that your realtor or us as the attorney, we are clearly communicating to the other side, to the other party, that you are in fact canceling, and send that release and cancellation and put that in writing via email, and send that out prior to the expiration of that inspection period. Again, if that's Friday, then you need to do that by Friday at 11:59 p.m. That email must go out with that release and cancellation. And then the seller, 99% of the time, if it's during that inspection period, they're going to sign that release and cancellation because they know that we can cancel for any reason. Where things get complicated is, let's say you blow through that inspection period, and then let's say you don't have a financing contingency, and then as a buyer, you decide to cancel after that. Well, you may very well be in breach of that contract because you likely do not have any other contingencies on there if you don't have a financing contingency, indicating that you are going to be getting financing, getting a loan on the deal. So in that case, your escrow deposit can very well and is likely at risk of being claimed by the seller. And that process is complex. I don't want to spend too much time on that, but it involves first a mediation. The parties need to go to mediate first and to see if they can work that out. A lot of times we don't even get to mediation. A lot of times, if we're able to convince, if I'm representing the seller, we're able to convince the buyer that they improperly breached the contract. Sometimes we're able to settle that. A lot of times the seller isn't looking for a windfall of money. They're just looking to be made whole for any of the insurance and mortgage payments and taxes and anything that they've been paying over that period of time that it's been under contract. So sometimes we're able to negotiate splitting the escrow deposit without having to pay attorneys and to go through mediation or to go through litigation. And a lot of times that's kind of how it works out and settles out. If not, you go to mediation. And if it doesn't work out in mediation, then you go to litigation. So the funds are interplayed into a court of competent jurisdiction, a local court, and then the parties fight it out and duke it out, where the attorneys take over. So for sure.
Well, for what I was taught, and thank God I was taught very well from my original broker, and she taught me very well about the contracts. As before anything else, I had to learn those contracts. Never, ever giving legal advice, never acting like an attorney, just being a licensed real estate agent, but asking someone to sign a legal document, know what I'm asking them to sign. All right.
That's right.
And so one of the things I always do, and I become like a father to my clients when it comes to that, I'm literally, it's like telling them, like a dad telling his kid to clean up the room. You have 5 days to do your inspection. And all right, we'll get on that in the day 2. I said, no, you won't. You're calling your inspector today. I want you calling them today, right this minute, line it up, especially in this market. And I never want to be on the last day. Like I just become like this guy you don't even want to be around when it's the last day of inspection. And I'm like, no. Because I don't do that. My people, we get the inspection done. We get it done quick. We get them the report. If there's anything else they need to look at, we get a contractor out there to look at with the seller's permission. And then we decide if we're going to move forward. And usually they'll let me know if it's 7 days or 5 days. I'll know in those 3 days if we're going to move forward or not.
And another thing I know that you do is, and if you want to talk to the audience about that, is if you get an inspection report that comes back with some things that were unexpected, let's say roof leaks and I God forbid some mold or some other major repairs, sort of retrading that deal, looking for negotiating to get discounted prices for your clients. That's something that you obviously do. If you want to talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, I mean, back in the old days, we say before this market was crazy. Yeah, of course.
With the seller's market, it's not so easy, right?
Yeah, but you always try to keep a deal surviving, going through. And yeah, many times I've asked for credits and the seller and people looked at it, said, okay, we realize our house needs that. I don't want to mess with it. And the seller said, fine, we'll give you the credit, or we meet halfway, whatever it is. Both parties are feeling okay. We feel they gave a little, they gained a little, they feel good. We move past and it's like, okay, you're buying a house like this and my clients will take care of whatever that issue is after they take the title to the property.
Yep.
And that's usually how it goes. Of course, in this market, it's been a little crazy and the sellers are like, fine, if you don't want it, someone else will. But yeah, for the most part. And
it's worth asking.
It's always worth asking.
Always worth asking.
I always tell, should we ask for that? I said, all they can say is no.
All they can say is no.
99.9% of the time that we've asked, we've gotten something.
Good.
Like very rare has it been a flat out no. Almost always it's been like something. So,
and that's you providing value to your clients, which is awesome. Yeah.
So, but yeah, for the most part, but that's a good point. Okay. So we kind of know about that. There's obviously things like sometimes it's not a smooth transaction. I know this one always comes up and stuff, and they need a little more time to close and stuff. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? About
sure. I won't go into too many scenarios, but yes, just generally, if a buyer is not yet ready to close, and sometimes, a lot of times, it's their financing, and if they've gone. So the second major contingency after the inspection period is the financing contingency, and a lot of times the financing contingency expires well after the inspection period, but before the closing date.
Right.
So let's say it expires a week before the closing date, and let's say the lender says, "Well, I think we're ready, and you should be good. I don't see any major issues, but I can't give a loan approval. But I think everything looks good." We get that kind of over-promising and under-delivering from lenders sometimes. Not good lenders, but a lot of lenders out there are not that great. Just like there's a lot of not so great attorneys, not so great realtors. There are some not so great realtors. They put their clients in bad positions. And then we come to the closing date and the lender's not ready to close for whatever reason. And so we need to, the borrower needs to ask for an extension of the closing date. Most times they're able to get that, but it's how they get it. Sometimes the sellers are not just super generous and aren't willing to give them a week extension for nothing. So sometimes you have to, as you know, Paul, and I know you do this with your clients, sometimes you have to give a little to get a little. So sometimes sometimes they'll demand a little higher price, or not always that, but sometimes they'll demand a little more money in escrow. So the buyer has to go and put another $5,000 or $10,000 into escrow to show good faith and to put kind of more skin in the game. Or sometimes they'll even ask them to automatically release the monies from escrow immediately so that they're gone and they'll be credited towards the purchase price, but that the seller has that money, the escrow money. There's no dispute over that anymore because it is hard. And so there's variations of different negotiating tactics to get that extension of a closing. And sometimes sellers, if they just need an extra day or two, sometimes the sellers will say, okay, I'll give you time. If
calmer heads prevail, it's usually okay. I've been in some interesting situations where, literally they were, for every day you don't close, it's going to cost you $100. And the selling agent told us that's what they wanted. And we were like, well,
yeah.
And I said, well, if not, they said, well, I guess we have to cancel the whole deal. But, but if they don't have the loan approval and it's still in their time frame, as long as they didn't go past that loan approval. And I know that as his contract recently changed and now people can't, rely on the appraisal anymore. The appraisal has to be ordered right away. I used to do it like, let's do our inspection, 7 days, and we're good. Then order the appraisal and save them $400 if it didn't go through. And say, oh, the house is bad. No more nowadays, unfortunately. And in this market where the prices of homes are up, now you got to pay for the inspection and the appraisal right away because you have to get it in that 30 days.
Not only that, but now you have to rush your appraisals because the appraisers are so far behind. Most of the time, you're rushing them. If you only have let's say the seller's mandate that you only have, let's say, a 15-day financing contingency, and they're aggressive and they say, okay, you have a 30-day close, but we're only giving you a 15 or a 20-day financing contingency. You probably need to rush your appraisal and pay even a couple $100 extra on top of that to make sure that appraisal comes back, because appraisers are really behind on getting those reports back. I know you've experienced that. So
yeah, definitely. So it's funny, and I'm so glad you're on here. So you and I were kind of talking beforehand about what we'll talk about and just different stuff. And one of the things that I've always wondered, and this is great that you're on here. So as a realtor, oftentimes when I'm writing a contract and something comes up, especially nowadays where we're having like a wave appraisals or waive some of the money that will appraise, realtors are writing addendums as though they got a law degree. And I laugh about that because we're not lawyers, but since the day I've been in real estate, I get them all the time. I've done them. It's like, you're writing stuff and it's like, it just, you're a lawyer. How does the state of Florida allow us to continuously write these addendums when in reality, you're changing the contract, right?
It's a real gray area. And I've seen some issues where realtors wrote up addendums and they sent it to me and I cringe and I'm like, what does this mean? I don't get it. There's 10 different ways of interpreting this one vague sentence that you put together. And it's concerning. So, that's another thing that, as a client, you may want to consider having an attorney, even if it's not us, another attorney on your side for the transaction that's working with you, Paul, and kind of making sure that those additional legal services that really should be handled by an attorney are in fact being handled by the attorney. Certainly, you have your specialty. You're an amazing negotiator. You're a great realtor. You know your comps. You know your numbers. Everything that you need to know as a realtor. But you stay on your side of the street and we stay on ours, and work together in a partnership. And that's really how successful transactions happen. Because I've seen those addendums go really wrong too. And
I bet.
Yeah, and I don't know if they end up with ethics complaints or whatever the case may be. I don't follow that stuff, but I've had some very upset folks on these transactions when their realtor,
I've gone and had I'm with Keller Williams, and I know a mutual friend. That's how I was introduced to you, and he's a great guy. And one of the great things I have at working at this company is the access to people. And so we had to write up an addendum, and I ran it by one of the brokers, and they kind of looked at it and had the verbiage from someone else that kind of did it. And I imagine it was a lawyer, but having that support helps where I'm not just randomly writing it up. I ask someone, hey, I want this to be right because I want to protect my client and I don't want anything to come backfire. And so they wrote something up that was very nice. And then of course the brokers were like, yes, that's good language. I'm sure that's fine. And I had that.
And listen, if it's something simple like the closing date shall be extended to whatever, February 28th, that's great. Like, you don't need to do that. But when it's a more complex issue, it's always good to have that attorney on your side. I will say one thing, Paul. It looks like we've got a comment here.
Yeah, we do. Yeah. So let me put that up. So this is one of my buddies out, and this is part 2 of his questions. So. Sure. And he'll be coming here to beautiful Florida this summer. He's
Love it. Yeah. Enjoying the Philippines. I got to get to Palawan. I heard Palawan's amazing out there.
So he said a friend bought a condo 2 years later. The tiles started popping loose. They were apparently not buttered and therefore didn't adhere well to the mud cement. It was found that the seller did the work himself, neighbors revealed this, is there any recourse in a situation where a problem surfaces a long time after the sale, where the seller can be shown to be liable for some defect?
Well, so every state's different, so I got to just throw that out there. I practice law in Florida, and I'm also not giving specific legal advice on this matter, but just generally talking. So I have to give my kind of
Right. Yeah,
legal
exactly.
disclaimer
Yes.
here.
Yeah.
Yes, possibly, possibly but probably one of the thresholds that you would have to, or legal bars that you would have to get over, and I would assume it's probably similar in most states, is you would likely have to show that the seller was aware of their defective work, and they knew about it, and they did not disclose it. If it was just kind of shoddy work, maybe like with a slip and fall and someone was injured, maybe there's a liability. But as far as suing them for some kind of damages that they should have told you at the time of the contract that the tile was laid improperly, that's going to be a real stretch, especially the longer that you go from the closing of the transaction, the harder it is to gather evidence. But let's use a slightly different scenario. We had a scenario once where it was found out that right after closing, shortly thereafter, that there was a septic tank drain field that needed to be replaced, and it came to the attention of the buyer that the seller did not disclose that. And I think there was some public records. I forgot exactly how he found that out, or maybe it was actually from a drain field contractor. That's what it was. It was from a drain field contractor that came out and said, "Oh, I already inspected this property a month ago from the prior owner, and I gave him a report and a quote on this." And so the prior owner knew that there was a defective drain field that needed to be replaced essentially immediately, and did not do that. So there was some threats back and forth, some threatened litigation, and then it ended up settling where the seller had to pay the current owner, the buyer, a certain significant amount of money towards that. So that's an example. As long as the seller has knowledge of defects, they need to disclose those defects. And if the buyer can prove that, then that's great. Then you're probably going to win as a buyer. If you don't have proof of that, it's that as-is contract in Florida. So if you're in Florida, there's 98% of the contracts use this Florida as-is contract. So unless you can prove that the seller had actual knowledge, you're probably going to be, taking it on the chin.
And that's why when you're working as a listing agent and you are working with the seller, you have that seller's disclosure and you put that in there. And anything if it's something you don't know, they could still discover something and you didn't know. But as long as if you put it on there and you show that and you have both parties sign it. And stuff.
That's nice to have. It's helpful, and you're right. And that's great that you use that, Paul. Not all realtors do that. But if you can get that seller disclosure signed by the seller, then that's wonderful, and it's helpful. If they clearly put on there,
it's probably not ironclad, but it's at least helpful and stuff.
It's helpful.
So let's see. Tell you what, I'll throw it up to you. Do you want to?
Sure. Let's talk about it. Let's kind of get to a higher level here, because there's probably some people on here that are in different areas of the world or different areas of the country, different states, and they probably aren't as concerned so much about the legalese in a Florida contract. Those are things that if and when they become your client, that you can walk them through, or I can walk them through. But generally, a lot of people are wondering what maybe our belief is about the market and where we're at. Some people say, "Oh, well, did I miss the boat? Prices have gone up so much, and where are we? Is this still an opportunity to buy?" And Florida is, hundreds of thousands of people are moving here per year from all over the states and all over the world, really. And is this an opportunity? Are there opportunities for me to buy in Florida? And you're the expert on that, and certainly I'll tee that up for you here in a second. But I'll give you my input on this. Is that absolutely? I am a buyer myself. I'm an investor. Up until about a year and a half ago, I had 10 rental units. Now my wife and I have bought 19 more. We're at 29 units And I'm looking at another sixplex here. In fact, I'm literally in the middle of a negotiation on that. And I think we've met on a price. And as long as it inspects fine, we're going to be up to 35 units here in about 45 days. So I'm a true believer that this is a great market. Yes, prices have gone up, but there's no sign that this market is going to slow down or has any reason to slow down. Because remember, we're in the midst of 1970s type inflation. We are essentially at what I would consider almost hyperinflation. I saw a chart today of a list of the major countries. There was a list of about 25 countries, and America, that just came out the CPI numbers of 7.5% year over year inflation. That's CPI numbers. That doesn't include a lot of fuels, a lot of energy, rents and housing. That doesn't include that. If you include all that and you really bake the numbers in, you're probably at somewhere between minimum of 12 to 15% inflation year over year. And this is what we're seeing. We're seeing money flooding in, and the velocity of money all over in all different types of assets, whether it be gold, silver, real estate, the stock market. We're seeing inflation, and I don't see any slowdown in that. I'm not a prognosticator. I don't have a crystal ball. Do your own due diligence. I'm just telling you what I'm doing with my money as I'm putting it in real estate. The benefits of real estate, especially as an investor, are that you it's an inflation hedge. So if I put $100,000 in the bank, at a minimum, it's going to be depreciating 7.5% per year at these numbers, and that number's increasing month over month. So I'm literally flushing down the toilet $7,500 per year if I don't put that to work. So if I put it to work in real estate, I'm likely going to see a minimum appreciation in real estate of 7.5%. It's that inflation hedge. I'm having my tenants pay down my mortgage. I'm getting tax depreciation. So you buy a property and you depreciate that over 27 and a half years. So my income that I make on my job, I get to do a tax write-off every year on that income. And also the inflation is eating away at your mortgage. So remember that. So as the value of the dollar is depreciating by that 7.5% inflation or more, the value of your mortgage balance based on today's dollars a year from now is 7.5% lower. Does that make sense? So if you had a $100 mortgage in today's dollars next year, even if you didn't pay $1 towards it and you were just paying interest, that mortgage is now worth $92,500 in today's dollar, meaning to pay that off, it would take $92,500 of today's dollars to pay that $100,000 mortgage off. That I'm a big believer in real estate, and it's
and a lot of people still are. They're still, like you said, they're still coming here. They're still buying, even at the prices. People are still coming here. I will say that the one thing that was interesting that one of my clients showed was something like 47% of the past sales in Palm Beach County have been cash buyers, and that's just amazing. It's just amazing that many people. But yeah, people are buying at all price points. Everyone's still trying to, because it is one of the best ways to put your money into something, and of course with the way they keep going up. I get to see
one more comment there.
Yeah. This was regarding, on a related note, home prices. So I8 New Jersey said home prices are the only thing that have gone crazy here in South Florida. Rent has too. Is there any talk of legislation limit to increase in rent year over year?
And I'll give you a quick example of that. So my units, I've got a lot of, I'd say the majority of them are 2-1s, 2-bedroom, 1-bath. So about 2.5 years ago, my rents for those were around average $950. Recently, in the last few months, I bumped all of them up to right around between $1,450 and $1,500. So there was close to a 50% rent increase. And I'm just going up to what the market is asking for these rentals. In fact, now I'd say just in the last few months, rent prices for 2-1s are now up to about $1,600. So, do I feel bad for renters? I absolutely do. But at the same time, my prices for insurance and taxes and everything else is going up as well. And repairing a property, getting it turned. So to pay a handyman to go over there, I just got a quote today on a 2-1 to turn a property is $4,500 for labor for that. And then the materials, I don't even know what they're going to be. They might be $2,000 or $3,000 materials. I'm going to spend about $7,000 to turn this 2-1 to get it fully rent ready. to go then re-rent it for about $1,550, maybe $1,600. So as a landlord, there are expenses, but in the long run, it's just been a wonderful investment decision for me. But
well, yeah, well, it's going to be great for you as you get done with being the law firm. You'll just be able to sit back and enjoy South Florida, go to the Keys, and
that's cool. I want to be fishing like you. I want to get I want to be out there with a pole and a cigar and a beer. So
yeah.
But just to answer New Jersey specific question, they're asking, is there any talk of legislation to limit the increase in rent year over year? Short answer is no. I'm not going to get political one way or another. You choose. I'm not going to get into which way I support or don't support. But those states, for example, in the Northeast, like New York, that's talking about a full rent control legislation statewide. They already have it in the city and a number of other areas. I think New Jersey has this. California has enacted it. That's not coming to Florida anytime soon. As long as Florida stays a what we would call a red state, leaning red state, the Republicans have no interest in that. So I don't anticipate that's going to happen. So for any of you landlords that are looking to, invest your money here, this is a very business friendly, very landlord friendly state, and the eviction laws are very landlord friendly as well. I'd say to evict a tenant takes about 4 to 7 weeks, depending on if it's uncontested or contested. I've heard in New York, New Jersey, California, these states, you're talking about 6 months to a year minimum to get a tenant out, if you can get them out. So
wow. Yeah,
I'm not making any commentary, good or bad. I'm just stating facts here.
Yeah, that's all right. The Road to the East, Road East says, are any of your rentals furnished? People moved now to Florida are seeing long lead times on delivery of furniture. Yeah, they are, and appliances and everything else.
You know that, Paul. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. The short answer for me is no. I don't do furnished or Airbnb rentals. One of my triplex properties is in a pretty good area east in Fort Lauderdale, and I could Airbnb it. I looked into it. I didn't want to deal with the wear and tear on the furniture and have to deal with that kind of micro management of my properties. I like it just to keep it clean, and you rent it, you bring your furniture in, and go from there. But if you are interested in Airbnb and buying a kind of a prime location property, I'm sure Paul can find you one that will kind of meet those specs for Airbnb. And then there's a number of different property managers who do Airbnb property management, and I'm happy to introduce you to any, or Paul can get that information. I'll give it to Paul. But there's ways to do that from a distance too. I know several of my clients do Airbnb property management. One guy lives in Romania. He's an American guy. His girlfriend's in Romania. He's lived there for the last 3 or 4 years and manages a portfolio of about 50 plus rentals here in South Florida that he Airbnbs and has furnished. And he's got some guys that handle that for him. So, yeah.
Good. Well, I'm going to go back to your question, kind of answer my perspective on the market. So
sure.
I can tell you from someone that's in the trenches working with clients that it is still extremely tough. There's no inventory. I haven't looked at what the numbers are for this month, but I think last time I checked, right when the year started, it was like 1.2 months worth of inventory. There's literally nothing. I had a friend the other day. It's funny. I had an email from one of my clients. He's trying to find a condo for his daughter, and he sent me an email. And it was something about one of those classes about how when everyone's doing the REOs and all that, and you could go take this class or get this list and be the one out there and
foreclosure list or whatever.
Yeah. It doesn't. There's no foreclosures. I mean, like in the whole state of Florida, there's a couple hundred at best. So, I don't know the answer. I get this question all the time, and I wish I could give a better answer. But I mean, it's just a supply and demand situation. We have so many people moving to Florida for whatever reason. Politics, warm weather, whatever it is, health, job, whatever it is. They're moving to Florida, but we only have so many homes that are available. And I have personal friends I have friends that I helped buy, helped them when they bought their house a couple of years ago, and they bought it at a really good price. Now that house is worth well over $1 million. And he jokingly was like, "Hey, I'm gonna sell the house." I said, "No, you're not. Your wife will kill me." I said, "She'll actually kill me because you're not going to be able to find something as nice."
Yeah. Where are you going? Yeah. Where are you going to go?
We'll rent. I said, "No, you won't. If you see what rent costs are, she'll kill both of us." I mean, but it's insane. And I'm working with buyers, and we're trying to find properties. And it's not like, I mean, it's still going on. Like one of my clients, we were looking at this weekend, and we knew that when we went there, there was like 7 to 10 other people that were coming in, and the agent was already like anticipating 15 offers. 15 offers. And I know we hear the stories of 70. You only need one, people. You only need one offer, and that's the one you're going to accept. But I mean, they're getting offers. So I don't know what the answer is to it. I don't really see any solution. I mean, yeah, sure. I heard that the interest rates are going up to 4%. So, that could stall maybe a little.
It's probably going to lower the refinances a bit, except, I'm talking about, not the purchase transactions, but refis mortgage applications have gone down on the refi side a little bit. I heard it's about 10% just in the last month, but that's just because of the rates going up. Although there's still a lot of refis going on that we're doing closings for because the equity, people have equity in their homes now and they want to pull the equity out. But yeah, as far as the purchases are concerned, millennials have been waiting now for 15 years or so to buy homes since the last crash and to build up enough money to do so. And now they're falling farther and farther behind. And if they don't buy a home and they really need to get into this market, but I feel bad for a lot of millennials who are, jobs are getting better. They're making more money, but they're not able to get into this market. And there's so much demand, pent up demand that's out there. And the thing here in South Florida is there's, like you said, Paul, there's so little supply. There's very little new inventory being built. You might see you'll see condo buildings in Miami, but as far as Palm Beach County or North Broward is concerned, very, very little new construction. You'll see a little bit way out west in Delray and Boca, some of those, but those are high-end communities. It's being built for, $1.5 million and above.
Yeah, deal homes. Yeah.
Yeah. And those are for the New York, New Jersey buyers coming in. And
you're not going to get cash. Yeah, they're already over $1 million. It's gonna, if in this market, it's a jail home and it's in Boca, you can guarantee that's entry level. And even that, it's going to be on some of those homes. If it's a $1.5 million house, they're probably going to get 1.8, 2 million, because even on those new construction homes, people were overbidding on them, which is insane, just to beat someone else out. And then the report I read from one of the real estate emails that I get every day was that the amount of land left in Palm Beach County is just ridiculous. There's so little land left to build because you can't go east, right? East is the ocean. You can't go too much further west because it's Everglades and protected area. So there's no land. And then in Broward, the same way. So, and yes, people are moving toward places to the north, but now the prices where you used to be able to find $250,000 nice home, even almost new, up in Port St. Lucie, those homes are now for $350,000, Exactly. And I know people are looking up there, and even that's hard to find. So
and then you're going to have to commute probably an hour to hour and a half to your job. If you're in Martin County, an hour and a half, and Port St. Lucie if your job's in West Palm. And so it's a struggle. You see that up in Martin County and especially St. Lucie. You see all the Palm Beach County police cars up there because the police officers, they can't afford to rent or buy a place here, and they have to buy one up and do an hour and a half commute down to Palm Beach County. So, as you said, it's supply and demand, and the supply is barely trickling up, and the demand is, the curve is staggeringly high. But
I'm not trying to discourage. I mean, I know it sounds probably like people like, well, they're trying to discourage them all, and the whole channel is about people wanting to move here and celebrating Palm Beach County. It's a great place, but it's just the truth. And anyone that's watched my channel knows that I don't blow smoke. No. I'm a truthful guy, and I talk about how I hate summers here because it's so hot, and I love this time of the year because it's beautiful out. I mean, I like summer. Don't get me wrong. I haven't moved. I've been here 30 years, but I love this time of the year much more than I do the summer with the heat and humidity. But yeah. So looks like Nick has a question. When you sign, I'm sure we could go back and remember this back in our days, right? So when you sign a rental lease with a roommate, how do you protect yourself if you're splitting it 50-50 and they end up not paying? Are you responsible for the full rent in that case?
Yeah. I can tell you in Florida, that's what's called joint and severable liability. So you're both responsible. So if the total lease amount is $2,000 per month, it's not, unless the lease is worded differently, if it's just a flat rate of $2,000, your names are on that, you're both responsible for the full $2,000. If one doesn't want to pay, the landlord doesn't care where it comes from. The landlord just wants their $2,000. So you all figure that out. Essentially, that's the layman's way of saying that. How do you work that out? Well, you got to be very careful with who you rent.
A better roommate, man.
Yeah, got to be very careful. Yeah.
Have a questionnaire.
Yeah.
You want a roommate? Let me see. Where do you work? Let me see what your credit score is.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the only other way maybe is to do, if the landlord is maybe a non-corporate landlord, you could see if they'd be willing to do 2 leases, and you rent, if it's a 2-bedroom, you rent a room and he rents a room. You know, you could ask that question if you're concerned, but if you have those kinds of concerns about your roommate, then you probably shouldn't sign a lease contract with them. Yeah.
Thanks for the question, Nick, and everyone else.
Thanks,
interesting. This is, and I actually went back and I edited one of my videos. I went back because I made a video about how to rent properties in Florida, and then I was reading something, and I kind of, when I said something in my video, I said, I need to really change that to be more clear. So I actually just put a little line under it, and it talked about criminal backgrounds. And I said, well, they're going to do a background check, and they want to make sure you don't have any criminal history. And so I was reading an article and talking about, especially you may be aware of this, is some of the lawsuits going on in Florida. There's a certain group in Miami, and they're targeting people for the Section 8 vouchers, but also you can't blindly discriminate because someone has a criminal background. And so what I did is I just went and put a little stipulation at the bottom of that video. In that section, I put something that says, a landlord can't blindly discriminate just because of a criminal background. And they have to look at it. They can't just say, oh, you were arrested, so I can't rent you. Again.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's called disparate impact. And yes, there are, you're not exactly what you said. You're not allowed to just look at a criminal background check and an arrest comes up and then you turn them down. You need to still consider them as a tenant if it's just arrests, and then even minor convictions like for possession of marijuana. It's how does it relate to the safety and security of the property and the neighbors, essentially. Right. So if it's a crime for, again, misdemeanor possession of marijuana, that's not something that you should be screening for. If it's rape and felony rape, and they went to jail for 7 years and they just got out, then yes, that's something that you could screen.
Right. Yeah.
Because that's security of the neighbors and the property. Yeah.
And that's me, just like you staying abreast of what's happening in my industry and being cautious about what I put out on content so someone doesn't say, because I kind of went back and watched it and said, someone could construe that and it's like, well, you said, they'll just, like that. So I'm always thinking like that. Yeah.
Us predatory attorneys. Luckily, I'm not a predatory attorney, but there are lots of stuff. So you gotta watch out.
Well, I just want to make sure I'm always giving people, because I am a licensed realtor, I'm always trying to give the best knowledge,
accurate information, and you do.
So, thanks, Road East. Yeah, so maybe do an escrow between the roommates. That's a good.
Yeah, you could do a separate agreement between the roommates, and put money in a bank account or something if you both are flush with money, and put $3,000 each in a escrow account and pull from that or something. There's all kinds of creative ways to do it. But again, from the perspective of the landlord doesn't care. They just want their money.
I was just looking over some of the questions, and I know we're at like 48 minutes. Are you doing good?
Yeah, I probably have a couple more minutes here, and then I need I've got that. I've got another engagement in Fort Lauderdale, so I need to.
Sure.
That's about
while we have him here, and again, I really appreciate you coming on, man. It's
sure.
Great. I look forward
My pleasure.
To you obviously afterwards and stuff. But does anyone have any other questions you might want to pop up real quick? So.
Yes. What about yourself, Paul? Any other things for folks that are out there? They're watching this from New York or from New Jersey or the Philippines or whatever the case may be.
This is a hard one. It's funny.
But do you recommend that they come down and try out Florida first and rent for a year? And some people will say that and then go by, or what's your perspective on that?
Yeah, I just had. Funny enough, I had a couple that found me from my YouTube channel out in Colorado. They're going to do that. They're going to come and rent for a little while, and to get the lay of the land. It depends on if they've been to Florida and they know the areas, or they have friends down here. Sometimes we'll have friends. They're up in New York, but they've been here and they come down on vacation. They kind of have an idea. Like you said, a lot of people know they want to move to Seven Bridges because they know their friends move there and stuff. But if they don't, a lot of times they will rent. Maybe if it's possible, I'm advising people to try to find a rental unit that has a seasonal rental on it. So basically, they're rented during a season for the high season, and then you could get the 6 months and not have to commit to a full year. So like some of these rentals you'll see where they'll rent it out, but you can only get it for those 6 months because then they're going to put it back at the higher rate for the season. And so I've seen a couple of those rentals, and that works. It gives you a chance to get familiar with the area, see if you like it. What's really important about moving here to South Florida and moving from another state is like, and that's what I've always done. This channel is about, is kind of showing people everything that's around. Like I don't just show a house. I kind of show people the microbreweries and the restaurants and how close it is to the beach, because that's why we love living here, right? So
the schools, right?
Yeah. I always try to tell them, kind of look at niche.com and kind of figure out what school you want to look at. But yeah, how close is the school and all that stuff. And because you want to know what's around you and are you going to enjoy living there? We used to live further east, my wife and I enjoyed living east more because I was closer to the beach and everything. But we moved out further west because of the schools. It's nice, but I enjoyed being east more, and that's where I know I want to be back. So, and there's more around us. There's more coffee shops. There's more restaurants out here. There's a couple places, Dunkin' Donuts, whatever. But good.
I'm the same way. I lived for a short period of time. I always grew up east. I've lived pretty much my whole life east, but for a few years I lived in Wellington after law school, and it was not. I lived right by the Wellington Mall. It was convenient. There was shopping, and there was this and that. But to see my friends and to socialize and to do what I wanted to do, and whatever, go to the beach, or it was always that kind of 20-minute drive just to get to the 95, and then from there to But the bottom line is, I fully agree. Being a Florida native, just in Palm Beach County alone, forget about Broward County and forget about Miami-Dade County, but in Palm Beach County alone, there's such a huge difference between a Delray Beach and a Wellington, that's known for its polo and it's out west, but it's still nice. And Delray's nice, and it's got that small town feel with the walking the street, versus Jupiter, that's a upscale fishing village, and Palm Beach Gardens, that's kind of the newer high end area. And then you've got downtown West Palm, which has got its unique areas.
Downtown West Palm is like, they're trying to make it the Wall Street of the South down here. They got Harry's, which is coming in there to Rose Square, right? And Harry's is a famous restaurant known for all stockbrokers up in New York. You've got Goldman Sachs that took 350 seats down there.
Oh, really? 350? Wow.
350 seats they took. There's another Steve, what's his name? Steve, the owner of the Marlins. He has an investment firm. They're down there, and then you have these luxury condos that are being built along Flagler that we've never seen prices like that for. The high price one of the really nice ones, I forgot the name of it, I can't think of it, was like 2 units, was like 48 million. And then you have units that are like 5 to 10. So it's really, West Palm Beach is really, there's a lot of money being put in there by developers. They have to believe the people are coming to be putting those properties there, and all the downtown and the commercial side as well.
Well, I think what's really going on is that Palm Beach is now bleeding over into West Palm. There's always a significant separation between the two, physical with the bridge and the intracoastal, but even just a monetary difference. And I think what's happening, so many New Yorkers, I heard people saying that, the whole Upper East Side now is in Florida, over this winter. And I see it in Boca Raton around here. I was walking, I had lunch today. I'm walking and I hear the one lady saying, yes, our home in Nantucket, is a little small for us, but we're happy here. And I didn't hear the whole conversation because I'm just walking by, but they're talking about Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket, and it's people are really flocking here. But but just back to the point, the original point is that you're able to bring your clients here. Maybe get them a short-term rental or even a year rental. You can find them those places, and then really help them to get to know the different geographic areas and what makes them happy, because everyone's different. Some people want to kick back and have the boating lifestyle of, let's say, a Jupiter, or some people want the urban lifestyle of a West Palm Beach or a Fort Lauderdale, or someone wants the kind of middle of the road, Delray Beach, or the residential luxury lifestyle of Boca Raton. So
no, you're right, and that's what a lot of the people do. And I do get quite a few of my people will reach out to me and ask me about that. One of the things that has been helpful for them is I do a lot of videos of neighborhoods. I do tours and stuff, so I kind of give them an idea and they see it, and then I kind of show them around some stuff, so I can give them a visual idea. Awesome. And I had one lady who's supposed to be coming down this month, and she basically said, no, I know where I want to live. I watched your videos and I saw the little towns you did, and I know kind of narrowed it down where I want. I'm like, great. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
The benefits of technology. That's amazing to do that for your clients. That's really good. And then,
well,
of course, one last question for you, and then I really do need to.
I was going to
we're at our hour anyways. But for virtual tours, if someone's in New York or they're in the Philippines, let's say, and they're really looking, they're serious, they know where they want to buy certain areas. You'll go and do. Not only are there virtual tours, I think online on the MLS, but you'll go with your phone and walk them through those properties, right? I mean,
I've actually closed 3 deals last year for my YouTube channel. All 3 buyers had never been to the property. They saw, I went through it. My wife helped on one of them. We went through it. I wasn't getting the best internet connection, so the wife goes, "You need an iPhone." I said, "No, I don't. I'm Android." And so I have her iPhone, and we showed the people. But I do these tours, and one of my clients, he was like, "Thank you so much." Like, he was so appreciative because I'm very honest about it. So when I'm looking at those properties, the pictures are always pretty. As realtors, we pay a photographer. They take the best pictures. When I'm walking with the camera, I'm going like this. I'm looking at the stuff that you don't see. And he was so thankful. And he says, "Thank you for showing me that. Because, I don't want that." And I said, "Yeah, I mean, it looks okay on paper and on the picture, but the reality is it's really expensive and it's not that nice of a house." And we need to find a really pretty house in Coral Springs, and he's very happy and stuff. But
that's great.
I will do that. And I'm very comfortable with technologies, obviously. Everyone can tell, although I finally got my screen to look clear in the background so you can see my good job. So, well, listen, Jerron, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you coming on. I know you've got another engagement, and I'm sure I'll be talking to you after this. I'll definitely reaching out to you, and it's great to know you.
Absolutely. Yep, sounds good.
If y'all have any, you want to reach him, his information's there. He's got his number. I had his contact information up here a while ago, right here. So that's all the information. You can get a hold of them, and if you have any questions or need him for anything, I'm sure he'd be happy to talk to you. And man, thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
This was fun.
Man.
And next time, I promise I'll have a beer in my hand.
I'll
or maybe we'll. You know what we should do? We should bring your phone and we'll go do it from the Keyline House or something in Lantana.
Oh, now we're talking. Yeah. Okay, you the challenge is down. We'll definitely do it. Well, listen, man, I appreciate it. You have a good evening. Thanks once again. I'll be sure to thank Dan for the introduction. He's a great guy.
Please do say hi to Dan.
He's a great guy. So all the best for your family, and we'll talk to you soon. Everyone, I'm going to hang on just for a minute, but thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Okay, bye, Paul. Talk to you soon. Okay.
All right. Wow. What a super cool guy. That was exciting. Hope you guys found some value in this live stream. As I said, a lot of times I'm just kind of having a little fun with y'all and kind of talking about why I like living here and all the good stuff. But I am a realtor, and my mission has always been to make sure that I kind of give you guys the best service I possibly can, and provide that circle of what I have with people around me, of great mortgage lenders, title people, lawyer, inspection companies. I've been doing this for 9 years, so I do know a lot of people, and I know people that have done a really good job for me and for other clients. And so I've got a list of those people that I can, hand out and refer to you. Let's see, we got another question. One more. Thanks, man. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. I know it's like 7 in the morning or something over there. Thank you for getting up and watching. I really appreciate it. But yeah, this is a lot of fun. And so I'm going to continue to try to get people to come on and talk about South Florida and just anything that I think might be of interest to y'all. And it doesn't always have to be strictly real estate. Like I said, maybe I can bring on some different people from other stuff about living here, but always have a little bit of real estate talk in there. So anyway, guys, that's 58. We're almost at an hour. I really do appreciate everyone who's been coming on. I'm having a lot of fun doing these. Some updates. I did do a really cool video that I'll be releasing. One little downside, I had this $10.5 million property that I was going to be videoing and making a really cool video, and actually hired a guy that was going to follow me around and film, a professional videographer, and then they canceled on me. So I'm going to just have to find another house. But I am going to try to bring some really beautiful homes to the channel. Just, it's kind of fun to show those really big homes and what it's like on the side of those. So I'll find one out there. But I did do a really cool video that should be coming up in about a week. So keep an eye out for that. And I shot one today, just kind of a fun park that I went to where my son was out mountain biking. So, all right. Well, let's see if I can get get out of this. And I know that I ended it wrong or started it wrong. Sorry for being late. I was talking to him and we lost track of time. And I looked, I said, oh man, we got to go live. So, all right, guys. Well, as always, appreciate it. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe, share the channel. And when you're in the Palm Beaches, get out and enjoy paradise. I'll talk to you next week.